Welcome to another episode of Ruff Talk VR, a weekly podcast with in-depth game reviews, exclusive developer interviews, and the latest MetaQuest and virtual reality news. We join our hosts, the father-son team of D. Scruffles and Stratus today, as they spend another episode breaking down and discussing the world of virtual reality.
Hey, welcome to this episode of Ruff Talk VR. We got another great interview for you. We're joined
Special one, folks.
Yeah, we're joined with another member from Resolution Games. You know, just the other week we talked with Gustav from Demio Battles, but just this past week, Racket Club came out from Resolution Games.
Finally.
Yeah, a game that we are freaking loving. You know, I love the mixed reality mode. Personally, it's one of my favorite mixed reality games now.
I call it the not hitting the cat mode.
Yeah, yeah. For me, it's the not crashing into the wall, but you know, I'm rocking the headband. Our guest today, you know, he's the lead,
rocking the full swag.
Yeah, he's the lead creative over for Racket Club at Resolution Games. We're talking to Mathieu Castelli, you know, and I'm so excited for this one. Just as somebody that's been loving every moment in Racket Club, to have somebody on from the team to talk about it, I am hyped to say
also
the least.
One of our favorite studios, so
yet to be disappointed.
Full disclosure.
Yeah,
you know?
Yet to be disappointed from Resolution Games. So
good people.
Before we fanboy out too much, Matt, do you mind to introduce yourself a little bit more for the listeners? Tell them who you are and what you do over at Resolution Games and specifically Racket Club.
Yeah, my pleasure. Hello, everyone. Happy to be here. So my name is Mathieu Castelli. I'm the Chief Creative Officer at Resolution Games. More specifically for Racket Club, I've been the initiator, the lead creative, the product owner, we also say. And my role makes me involved in many different projects at Resolution. It's a nice studio for that because we have many different teams doing different things at the same time. So the creative needs are daily exhausted. My more direct babies have been, well, now Racket Club and previously Blaston. And if you've played Blaston, you'll see the commonalities between the two and we'll talk about it, I'm sure, how one informed the other.
Yeah, I love Blaston. That was a great one.
That was fun.
Yeah, I mean, again, we've yet to be disappointed from Resolution, but Blaston's not a game that came out yesterday. So how long have you been at Resolution Games?
I've been there 5 years in January.
5 years. That must go fast. I mean, you've seen a lot of titles through Resolution, whether or not you've been involved in
a lot of
Demio and yeah. But was this your first VR studio you've worked at?
Yeah.
Or were you working in the industry?
I was working purely on mobile for the previous 15 years, mobile games.
Nice. So what
We've seen so many people from the mobile industry come over to the VR. It seemed like obviously it is some good fit that seems to happen, that it's getting so many people from that specific side.
I guess, I mean, you can see patterns everywhere, but I think, you know, people who went through the start of mobile, let's say roughly when the first iPhone came out, and from there on, there was a lot of initial period where you try to do a lot with very tight constraints. Nowadays, you know, those things are more powerful than a Switch and everything, but that wasn't always the case, and the tools were rough. And so there's a lot, VR is getting better, but, you know, a lot of the tool chain, a lot of the power at hand, the constraints, the UX things to figure out. It all makes sense because you kind of went through that for mobile as well.
So for yourself, how did you discover virtual reality and what inspired you enough to make that jump professionally? You know, it's one thing to be a consumer, but to say, no, I'm willing to make the professional change. Yeah.
So I was 45, I think, roughly when, a bit less, 43. And I was in between jobs. I was taking a sabbatical in the mountains. Different story, but we were off grid, off anything for a long period of time. Full Haiti. I don't know if that's known in the US, at least some family living in the mountains, let's say. Typical TV show in Europe. And I knew Tommy from a long time ago, very good friends. And he just had me shipped a Rift over there in the chalet, in the mountain shack. So I was surrounded by wood. I plugged it in and I played Super Hot in there. And I had goosebumps like I hadn't felt since my very young years, you know, that rush of something that hits you and you've got back spine goosebumps, and it feels you're alive again, after many years of mobile where things had evolved in a slightly less exciting way. So, I told him I was game, and he said, okay, cool. Let's do this. And that's when I jumped. That's why I jumped in the industry.
So then once you're in
instant fall in love.
Yeah. I mean, well, I think that's a story that a lot of people,
it's pretty reoccurring.
Yeah. A lot of people that are consistent VR users, they have that eye-opening moment where they try it the first time and you go, I need more of this. I need to play this more. But you took it a step further and got into it professionally. And, you mentioned Blaston. So you want to take us a little bit through the story of that? Was that the first game that you worked on at Resolution? And how did that game come to be?
Yeah, I mean, I joined, and then I was, going around the teams at the moment. We were making Demio, we were making Acron, we were making Cookout. So there was a lot of stuff to get yourself involved in. But I guess I was marked by the initial rush I felt playing Super Hot. And I was just standing there thinking about the game, and I felt, wait a minute, Super Hot multiplayer, we can do this. And then I immediately grabbed someone and we prototyped it. And like in 2 days, we have videos lying around of how it looked. You had basically blob heads and sphere, untextured spheres flying around. And we were having fun already right there, the same mechanics, just from this constraint of small space that you have to weave your thread through a wall of bullets. And so that's how it came to be, like a flash of inspiration from Super Hot and how you could multiplayer it. And then the game was so focused that it went out in the production lasted 9 months. It was very quick, 9-month production for Blaston. Wow. So that we released right before summer 21.
Wow.
9 months is really aggressive.
Absolutely. And there were more updates that came post, but I mean, that's incredibly impressive. And Resolution is, I was going to say, one of the studios that does social VR, I think, the best, whether that's Blaston or Racket Club or Cookout, another one of our favorites, or
hysterical.
Or Demio. So, this is a studio that really just understands multiplayer and social VR. But you teased a little bit at the start, Blaston kind of influenced or led a little bit to Racket Club. So you want to get a little bit into that story of how Racket Club came to be?
Yeah. I guess before we go there, I just want to jump on what you were saying regarding social, that Resolution, because right when Blaston released, we saw people still gathering in, it was Blaston still is some ways very traditional, like you matchmake and you go into rooms or you have private invites for private rooms. And people were more gathering as a community on Discord. And Tommy came and said, we have to find a way to bring that Discord into the game. And so we very quickly patched together, I think in just 1 month in time for the Christmas, patched together a social space. It looked like a cyberpunk bar. I don't know if you've been there. We called it the Uzu Lounge. And so that was the first time we integrated social in Blaston. But technically, because it had been done after, we always had this friction between the social space. Well, friction, typical stuff, but the social space was some kind of lobby. And then you'd go into rooms to play your matches and then you'd come back. But we never had, and I hope we get to do it one day, Blaston 2, I can still dreaming about it, but you never had the games in the bar. You would have wanted like a pool bar or whatever, like a air hockey. The dream was I wanted this so strongly back then. The dream was to have people socializing while people were playing around. And when we started, and I'll get to the origin story of Racket Club, but when we started Racket Club, one of the key things from this learning was that it's going to be painful because it's really hard networking wise to have your core gameplay multiplied in the same network space. And that's why everybody goes to the easy route of sending people into network rooms. Right? So it was a lot of work and still is, but that was the learning from Blaston. The core gameplay needs to be mingled with the social space. And it's true. In that period, reinforcing that desire, you had Gorilla Tag showing that social and gameplay have to come together in one package. But when you have a core gameplay that is naturally adapted to isolated room, it's kind of a conceptual jump to say, no, we're going to break the room. It's not going to be lobby and multiple rooms. It's going to be multiple rooms together in packages. And of course you have limitation. It's like an MMO. We can't have people playing, 500 people playing in a huge club, but that's not even necessarily desirable. But quest limitations cap you at the number of persons per club. But I mean, my local tennis club has 5 courts as well. So we're not too far from the real equivalent. So yeah, I go to this tennis club a lot because I'm tennis has always been my sport. So I play that a few times every week. And, I was playing one day. It was in the full craze of Blaston, where we had we still have, we got the peak user last month in Blaston, 3 years after release. So that's pretty impressive.
Wow.
Yeah, we had close to 100,000 players in Blaston last month, which is quite big. So it wasn't big, but Blaston was doing very well, and I was playing tennis. So I was very, your brain picks up on this habit of doing physical intensive things in like 6.5 feet square, which is roughly the room scale, the base room scale size that Blaston modeled after. And I was playing tennis and I realized, wait a minute, most of my shots, when I play my shots, if you look at my body, if you forget the running in between hits, it could be taking place on a Blaston pad. All I have to do is, fenced it by walls so that the ball bounces around. And that's what got it started. And then again, same type of story. We took one of our super talented Sib, if you hear me. Hello, man. We took one of our super talented coders, and this was prototyped in 2 days. Base physics, nothing like it went after it later on, but base physics. And we realized, we can play this thing. And the big difference with 11, which was the racket sport leading still is of the time, is that it was giving that feeling to tennis players or padel players or pickleball players. It was giving that feeling already from the first prototype of full body, which is a different pleasure than from table tennis, where your whole body is engaged for drop shots. You turn around much more. And so that's how it started, because you had a guy, me, who was playing a lot of tennis and who was leaving Blaston at the time, and the two combined created Racket Club.
So were you the first pitch for this style of experience, or you were the one who went into the office and was like, hey, I have a great idea for you?
Yeah, it was. I came back, if we put walls, it's going to work. And I think initially, as usual, you think, okay, maybe it's something you would enjoy a lot, but is it something more people would enjoy? That was unproven because from the prototype, the first balls I was hitting, I knew we had something, but that wasn't shared much, to be transparent. People were filing me as a racket head because the physics were very rough. So you had to imagine what it would play like if you had something smooth and with good physics and everything. 11 has proven that for a racket game, the magic happens when you forget it's virtual. It has to feel super real. And for that to happen, then we worked like 9 months, where we were just diving deep, reading math papers, contacting, researchers who have done math around, tennis physics, for example, who helped us figure out, okay, how can we model the right interactions for the ball? And so it took a long time to get it right. At some point, we felt this close to giving up. We had tough discussions with Tommy, but towards the end, Enrique, if you hear me, Enrique, who was the dev, who was doing the actual physics code, nailed it, and that was it. Then the others got convinced, and then we pitched to several other key partners, and it went. Many people got on board very quickly.
Well, the physics are amazing.
Yeah, so it all came together nice. But I just love that there's a culture at Resolution Games that you can go and pitch this game, and boom, boom, boom. And next thing you know, it's for better or worse. You mentioned it's got a little stressful at times. So for better or for worse, but it gets done. It starts to
happen.
It can happen.
Yeah.
So that's awesome that there's even that
it's also cool to know how mentally it came to be by merging the two, the love of playing tennis with also being trapped in the world of Blaston for so long.
Yeah. And I mean, again, we just said it, but I'll say it again. The physics in this, you all did a great job making a realistic.
Well, to me, the physics it's like, this has to work well. And that is one of the things that makes 11 table tennis so good, is those physics are believable. You don't feel like you're in a VR space. So it's like, I need that result from.
Well, what's cool too is it's not also 1-to-1 with tennis. So I feel like that eliminates it partial of the challenge, that you don't need to be complete tennis. There's also, it's not racquetball
court.
No, it's its own little sport. It's Racket Club. It's like a mix of tennis and racquetball. Was that a decision from day one to make its own unique sport, or was there ever a time where, let's do more of a tennis or more of a racquetball?
No, I mean, once we got the physics running, then there was a moment, okay, all right, so we got the basics going. There's many sports out there, and we had a period where we tried different, with the usual tricks of either stick locomotion or automatic linear locomotion towards the point of impact that other games are trying. But none of those things we tried made us feel, at least, that we were, again, for the same aspect of the physics, where it needs to feel real to be fun, those racket sports. And the moment we introduced those locomotions to try to go to the path of real racket sports, which are all scales that you cannot have at home, right? So you need to introduce virtual locomotion. We felt, maybe that's a very resolution specific culture, but we felt we were losing that realism, especially for people that were not rackets players and could not project onto the game their real world experience to I would say complement or patch around the artificial nature of the locomotion with their real usual racket sports experience. The non-racket sports players, to feel that it existed real, reacted much better when we kept it as the 1-to-1 physical locomotion. And so the moment you accept that, all right, we're going to do only natural locomotion, like in Blaston, then you need to invent something new. There is no full body racket sports out there that works in this scale. And then it's, bit by bit. I remember initially we just had the room scale square facing each other across the net, and the distance felt a bit too short. And then we were looking at pickleball, and one day the solution, kitchen, I don't know if you know pickleball, but they have this zone that is on two sides of the net where you cannot step into if you want to volley. And that gave us the idea to do the same thing in Racket Club, which is to get free space, so to speak. By free space, I mean bigger court without asking players to have bigger size at home, because that zone you cannot play into. It's illegal to play there. So it's only the ball is going to travel. That gives you a feel of a bigger court. That was a key. And then we tuned at what point did it start to feel right or wrong, the length. Then of course, racquetball, squash, padel, iteration on the walls, what type of walls, what is the role of walls. We felt padel has it's not a known sport in the US, not very much, but padel has that rule where, unlike squash, you cannot just slam or racquetball, you cannot just let go and slam, because if you hit the back wall first, the ball is considered out. It's as if you would say, if the ball had kept traveling, like in tennis or pickleball, it would have been out. But the wall doesn't let it. But if it touches the back wall first, it's out. And so small, we basically were handpicking, and then bits from different racket sports. We took mostly the tennis rackets and the tennis, how you apply spin on the ball from tennis. That was the main thing. But we also let the Magnus force be way stronger than it is in tennis from ping pong. In ping pong, you can have over short distance really Magnus curved. trajectories. And so we took from ping pong that aspect where we artificially put some stronger magnets so that we would have shorter distance curved appearing, as opposed to tennis where the curves appear a much longer distance. So it was really like, do your shopping from the base constraint of not being able to have bigger size from people's home, but then you handpick what fits the best and lots of trial and error, of course.
And that's how you come up with its own unique sport, Racket Club.
Well, it's funny when you brought up spin, it reminded me that I didn't know that spin was possible until I was doing one of the tournaments, and my opponent hit the ball, and the way I'm like, there's spin on this freaking ball. This is going to change if I can put spin on the ball, I feel like it'll up my game. But I was ill prepared for receiving a ball that someone had put spin on, and I wasn't able to hit it back either.
Yeah.
Kudos.
No, the tournament mode in this game is great, but this doesn't sound like the easiest game to make between the networking aspects.
Sounds like you have to build everything from ground up.
Yeah. So how long did this entire development process take?
So Blaston was 9 months, and this one was 2 years and a half.
You can see the quality of it, though. When we were playing it, I didn't have any glitches or anything. The physics felt tight.
No, we had early access also.
And when you're describing it, I mean, none of it sounds easy. So for you all, what was the most challenging part? Was it the physics? Was it creating?
So there's two. It's very clear to mention it. For the first part, the physics, because by then, as I tried to relate to tell, we didn't know if we had a game until the physics felt right. So it was very fragile. At the same time, it was mostly Enrique, the physics coder, and me. So there was low stakes by then. But that was still the first biggest challenge. The next one, for sure, has been the club, technically achieving the club. So to try to give a sense of the challenge, we had our own avatar system, full body, not something you see that often in games, VR games. We wanted to have up to 5 courts playing at the same time in the same network space that you could just, look at them, people playing around 5 courts, hear them play, look at the ball. So that means you're rendering the physics for all those 5 courts. So those full body avatars, we have up to 20 of them in the club. Okay. So that means you have your Quest 2 rendering real time. It's almost like you had, 5 courts, 20 avatars running around, talking, etc., while you're running 5 iterations of your core gameplay. And so all this, that's the last, the last straw. Some of the teams in the project, Ahmed, if you hear me, was saying is that, and you're asking us, we have to run this at 120 frames per second on a Quest 2 because you need that high frame rate to have, if you take your hand swinging, if you have it at 72 FPS, then you have this position, you have this position. So the physics going to be way less precise than if you're running at 120, where you're going to have chick, 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 chick for the math to do its magic. So that's why from day one, when they enabled 120, it has to run at 120. That whole club experience when you're on court. When you're outside the court, it's less critical. You're just a spectator. You're just chilling. But when you're on court, you need to run at 120. And they could be, 10 people just standing around the court, moving all these IK, those bodies to animate, etc. And you have to do it 120 frames per second on the Quest 2. So that was the big challenge. I would like to mention a third one, because I don't think it's ever been done in VR, at least on the Quest ecosystem, which is the bots are not programmed. They're not scripted. We decided to make the jump, and we hired Mikael as the lead, and then he built a team of machine learning engineers to say, okay, this time we're going to build bots from people playing, not from scripting. So there's no script in the game driving the bots. They're purely playing from player data and machine learning. So that was the third challenge, because it's very hard also to run it on the Quest. I'm not going to go through the list again of all it's trying to achieve, but it's very hard to do this, especially when your game is not released. So achieving that quorum of data that you need to train the machine learning algorithm on before you release this kind of challenge. Of course, now that the game is out and we're receiving 1,000 times the amount of data every day compared to what we were able to do with our internal playtests and tournaments, we think in the coming updates, the bots are going to have very fast progression curves on the level they can achieve. So those were the main three challenges: physics, the club experience, machine learning bots.
So if my small brain is understanding this, which I'm probably only understanding 10%, the bots were the motions were the real human beings that know how to play the game. And then
they'll continue to learn.
Computers are taking those basic motions and are going to get better and better and better based off of it learning from all the other people that are currently playing.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he's taking over the world, man.
Even just if
that's not even funny. So if the best of the best players are playing the game more than anyone else, it's going to affect how good those bots could potentially play. That's great.
Yeah. So I'll share the full dream here. The dream would be, first of all, we can train very strong bots by saying, no, you guys only train on the top players' data, because in the big pile of the bell curve of data, you have a lot of people starting the game, right? So you need to filter the data you give them to train them to only do very tough shots and to be able to do deep saves, deep spins, etc. And there wasn't that many internally, so it's, for us, it's very important that players get good, so our bots get good, so our player gets better. It's going to be an arms race there. And everything, the motion, and so that's why it's a scary process, because when you start, as opposed to what you're used to, where brick by brick, you complement your bot intelligence with scripts, and you see that now it's able to handle this, and then you this behavior pattern, etc. The beginning, they're like, you have random data of your bot trying to do, and it looks weird, very weird. And so you get very worried. And then the moment you can have your first rally with something that was never driven, never scripted, it feels magical. I mean, we read it about Tesla's auto driving every day, nowadays. But it's when it's at your own small team scale of doing it for a racket sport for VR, it's magic.
I love knowing that every shot that is sent to you it's not made up stuff. It's stuff that a real human being could have and probably did serve it to you that way or hit it back to you that way.
Even better yet, if the players learn a meta of like, this is the best shot to do, where it's the best, it's just
highest
a great
win
serve
ratio. Yeah.
The computer should pick up on that. And if this stopped halfway through, like if you were like, we trained it with real player input and it stopped there, boom, that would have been huge.
Yeah.
And great. But then he took it a step further.
The cherry on top.
And now it's going to continue to learn. That's insane.
But it makes sense, because that'll do away with like feeling like something's always becoming too easy, because your learning curve is going to get.
And is it getting that data from the single player tournament modes as well, or only multiplayer matches? Like, is it just watching
get it from
real play?
No, we get it from bots, and we get it. So all your single player matches, we get that data. And we also get it from private rooms. In the game, you can either go to the club or create private games. We get it from privates, because it's, I think eventually we'll add the data capture from the club, but because of the club challenges, we had to really, shave any non-essential process that we could for the club to run 102 FPS, 20 people, 5 match, around. Whereas the privates don't have this pressure, this execution pressure. So we could capture them. But it's, but there's one small trick to see that actually it's not great for the game, but I think it's interesting to show the process and to feel it yourself directly, which is not in this game, given the court side, nobody does lobs. It's not a game where you can lob, there is no court depth to justify giving a high ball. It's my lob. I know in tennis or pickleball, a lob is when you try to go above the player, which is often at the net, right? I don't know what's the key word but I think it's either lob or high ball. So because of the nature of the court, nobody really plays high balls in this game, which means the bots never see high balls. So they don't really have data to follow to know how to handle them. And so what happens when you give a bot a high ball? A human just, okay, you give me such an easy high ball. I'm going to do a put away and smash it down. The bot is just confused and barely can handle it. And so that's a current limitation of the bots, for example, that you can give them high balls and get away with a lot of points from that.
For now.
But it's a way to put your fingers on the fact that because it's not something the players do, well, for the bots, it's a black box. They don't know how to handle it.
Well,
I did do that, and I did watch the bot not be able to seemingly know what to do, but I ruled it up to my own skill and was like,
but you keep doing it. These bots are going to freaking learn. They're going to learn, though.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Will they actually, if everyone starts doing that, will they adapt to the lob shot?
They don't really learn on what they miss. They learn on what the people do well. So even though the lobs are not a frequent, willfully initiated shot in our game, what happens is still every match you will fire a few lobs when you are, there's someone who make a very deep corner fast, and you basically save it the way you can, and often that flick up gestures result in a lob. So players, even though rarely, they do generate lobs, which is fun because then the opponent can smash them out of the court, which is one of the key point ender pleasure moment in our game. But that means that the bots are also learning at a slower rate, but they're learning to handle lobs by smashing them out of the court.
Well.
And this is all self-created technology that you did just specifically for Racket Club, correct?
That's true. Though we use Unity for this project, and they have a framework that's very open-ended and general. So there's nothing specific for us. The key challenge is when you can record, you can imagine, you have 6 degrees of freedom sensors, or, the 2 controllers and the headset. So that's your core input. And you have that 120 times per second. And then you have the ball position with its 6 axis and, speed and position and rotations of the ball itself. So you can dump this, and it takes a lot of much bigger brains than mine to figure out, okay, what data there are the key drivers of being able to play well. If you just throw everything without structure, the learning would need so much more data than you can gather. Never been ready by release. So there's a lot of engineering challenges very specific to the game. It's not just throwing data at some algorithm. You're right. You have to build a lot yourself. So it's a big bet. And we hope it's going to be very fun to generate updates for the community. Hey guys, thanks for playing. Now level 2 of the bot. See if you can beat that. That's a very fun roadmap of updates, I think.
No, I love it. I mean, it sounds like a lot of extra work at the start, but in the end, you get a much better product, not just at release, but
and an
down
understanding
the line
of how to do these challenges. So, I mean, this is something that you could carry over
to future titles,
to future projects based on now the work you just put in on something that you never would even think like Racket Club could carry over to a different genre, but I see where it could.
Well, you look at like the Ozo Lounge in Blaston, and then the Heroes Hangout in Demio. It's like these things definitely in Resolution, you all carry them over to other games. So absolutely. And, you referenced the challenge of the legs. I give huge props to you all on this one. There's no jank in the legs. They're never crossing. And I know that's a big challenge for a lot of different VR games. And not only do you do it with 2 players, but you do it with multiple courts going at the same time. So why, as somebody that's done it good, why is legs in VR such a big challenge?
Well, you can see why, because you have no input for them. So you have to infer them. And we have different height, different profiles. it's very hard to infer the right way from just those inputs. Sure, you could say, okay, statistically, if I'm like this, let's say my legs are like this, and that's not too hard a problem. You take a decision that is, you take the most frequent body position for that, and you can make it look good. Now, the problem is those algos running the body, they don't know what good looking is. They cannot run a model that's able to describe that's a human position. All they can do is tie the joints together with some physics constraints, have some angles that are not accepted. But we are so trained at looking human bodies and so knowing what feels natural or not, that it's very easy for those sets of joints and ligaments, so to speak, to look weird to us. It's like we are overtrained on detecting weirdness. If I was like that all the time, you'd say, hey, he's got a hand position that's a bit unusual. But from an IK perspective, inverse kinematics, the thing driving the body. Well, what does tell you here that it's less natural than this? Nothing. And so that's why the problem is very challenging. I think on court, we're pretty happy the way it turned out. But the reason we did this was because, I don't know if you've ever seen some videos of Blaston, but when you look at the avatars, which was only a subset of the upper torso in Blaston plus the head and hands. Okay. So we just had the torso, but not even the full torso, which was typical back then. But I realized that, we all realized when you look at people who were filming themselves playing Blaston and ourselves, the body is conveying so much more intensity and energy than the avatars were, because you felt the avatar. Everybody was looking, this looks like it's gimmicky. It's very low intensity. The bullets are slow, meh. And then you'd see somebody playing and diving around their room, rolling on the floor to dodge a bullet, crawling under a laser. Because the avatar just had this torso and those head and hands, they were not conveying that. And that felt, again, learning from Blaston, that felt like a missed opportunity. And so okay, we're going to do racket sports. It has to look like a racket sports you're used to, and you're playing to people to feel it, just that it's a real thing. And so that's why we said, okay, again, another constraint, but they need to be full bodied, because otherwise this will not convey that it's a full body racket sports. Again, another learning from Blaston there directly.
That's awesome.
I love being able to take the lessons from one and carry it. And again, totally different genre, not even remotely the same, but take those lessons from one and make sure that it's incorporated into the next project.
Well, and especially a game like Racket Club, where it's not just a stationary walking forward with your arms up holding a gun or anything. It's like your character, like you said with Blaston, it's true with Racket Club too. You're diving, you're moving all around a whole bunch. So I feel like that's an extra challenge specifically just with this style of game, but you all seem to have nailed it really good, so I love that.
I think the lucky surprise there was that this was made so that it looked, the avatars would convey the motions, the sports motion that people do in their rooms. That's just like what I tried to explain, that felt very important for convincing people of the game. But then something that arose in the game was, now you can read cues from the full body that's telling you of the type of shots that's coming. And so that's great. And that's why when you play with a good latency set team, a group of people, and so you have the high frequency avatar relayed to you, the body motions tells you so much about what shot is incoming that it's way easier to play than when you have somebody with poor internet, and where you don't get that cues and the shot just appears out of nowhere. Whereas when you have the fluid animation, you learn to see the cues like in the real world. And it's very helpful when you're at the end game level to be able to say, okay, it's going to be a backspin, it's going to be top spin, he's aiming, it's going to be a wall shot, a straight shot. That's very useful.
No,
but that was unplanned for.
Especially you see the racket going up and you hit it like too softly or something, or they're going to try to smash it. Yeah. So I love being able to read the body language.
Yeah, no, that's huge. And something that I love about this game is the implementation of virtual reality, but also mixed reality.
Mixed reality, it's huge.
And for myself with this game, I I go mixed reality because I don't fully trust myself in virtual reality. What I mean by that is I get very into it. I'm going to run and block my girlfriend's view of the TV if she's trying to watch it. And maybe I'll even dive for the ball. But in mixed reality, I can see here's where I am. There's my walls over there, my real life walls. There's my room. I know my limitations. And because of that, I play a lot better in mixed reality. Sometimes in the VR mode, I'll be a little bit more hesitant to fully extend. But mixed reality, I'm freaking going to the bottom corner and hitting and going to the bottom corner and hitting. So was the idea to have a mixed reality mode, was that from day one, or is that something that came in mid-development?
No, when there was a moment where we realized that, and I think Stockholm, Swedish, where we are, the studio is based, the Sweden homes are a bit smaller than in the US, but realized people are challenged to gather that room scale. It's not a given that they don't have margins around. They'll find it, maybe you have to push a chair or not, but it's nothing super comfortable. And while in Blaston, most of the gameplay, at least for the early match, you can get along, you can get through it by just having a very forward play, So it's okay, not that much lateral motion, etc. In the game, because of the wall and the racquetball play, you're playing 360. Sometimes you swing towards your back, you swing to the side. All around you, you can have risky gestures. And so for those people that are a bit space challenged, it was clearly for us pass-through was a necessity. Otherwise, we would have lost them. So it came out of direct necessity for letting those team members be able to play from home.
So for yourself, are you mainly playing in VR or MR?
I'm more in VR. I find it personally. I have in the living room. I've got a challenge if my opponents are hearing this, they're going to abuse this, but my left back corner is overlapping with a couch, but it's couch seats, soft seats. So I cannot hurt myself, if I touch or swing that. So if it's not like wall or hard stuff that I can hurt myself over, it's kind of a soft, chill, living room surroundings. And so I prefer to play VR, even though there's those little challenge on the angles, because I find it a bit easier to concentrate, on the match when I'm fully into that sports vibe personally. But, mileage may vary,
Well, I love that there's the option for both, for some people that, you're able to play the whole play space in your environment. Hell yeah, play in VR. And like you said, the more spatial challenged people, they have the MR mode. So I love it. It's great. And
I'm wondering who the best in the studio is.
Well, I was going to ask this when we interviewed Gustav. He said there was a Racket Club tournament going on in studio. So yeah, who's the best and who's the winner of the tournament?
I lost. It was because it was a tough moment. So it's not me. It's the VFX artist, Armin.
Wow.
But he's so clean in his gestures. He's actually a strong paddle player. I think I get too excited, but it's the same pattern happened with Blaston back in the days where I'm just too I run around like a mad dog a bit too much, where you need to be able to stay collected and keep spatial perception at all times to not miss your shots. So I'm not the best. I'm not so far, but I'm not the best.
What round did you make it to? Did you lose in the finals?
I made it to the semifinal. It was a big tournament.
Yeah. Did Armin take you out? Was he the one that beat you? Or?
Not even him. Another guy. But I one of the machine learning team, Ryan. But we had another tournament recently where I came on top of him. So I think we're pretty even. Well, Armin is better though.
It shows you how fun the game is when it's not the creative lead taking first. It's not the actual creative. It's the people working in the mesh learning or the visual effects, and they're just having a blast.
Watch how many consumers are going to be hosting tournaments and stuff.
Correct.
Because it's ideal for that. I mean, especially you get a good Discord server, grab some peeps, throw them in there.
Well, and even the offline single player tournaments are probably the best way to learn the game. You know, you just go in, lose.
That's my go-to for warming up before I want to play any human being.
I think I lost maybe like my first 10 matches, but then I started winning, and boom, next thing you know, I'm winning a tournament. You know, the opponents, they have ranking too. It's so freaking cool. So, you know, was the idea to always have such an expansive single player mode? I mean, I kind of went into this expecting there to just be 1v1
push.
Yeah, mainly multiplayer in a very simple single player mode, but it's a pretty expansive, you know, single player mode with all those tournaments. So was that always the plan as well? And if not, when did that come in?
Yeah, and I have to say the plans are and still a bit bigger, but we needed the player data to have the bots and to make it even bigger. But it was always the plan because for Blaston, released without a single player campaign, and we added it after launch. And as you said, this is just always the best way to get familiar with the game, get comfortable at your own pace, with clear challenges that you can repeat whenever you want. You don't have to, because you're learning so many things when you pick up a new game. It's hard to rely on the online community for you to be the right challenge at the right time. And so you can have frustrations in both ways, too hard or too easy. For the first hours of play, single player campaign is essential. And we do definitely see it as the extension of the tutorial for sure. You know, get familiar with the bots there. So that was direct learning from Blaston. We couldn't launch without.
Yeah. Well, I love that decision. Again, for me, even once I learn how to play, I just like to go through those type of sports game
like
campaigns.
stretching.
And yeah, it's fun. But you said that there's, you know, much more in the vision of
Sounds like
Racket
a big
Club.
roadmap for Racket Club.
So are you able to talk at all about what maybe what's coming next, and even if possible, you know, what the end vision of Racket Club is?
There's many things, right? It's you get, you know, when you work 2.5 years on a game, you project so much of things that you have to leave on the side. Short term, I think, as I mentioned, there's going to be bot. We want to, you know, take the data and make and release better bots. We also want to structure the competition a bit more. So we released with a league system, fairly classical. The first thing there is we want to have the queen or the king discipline are doubles, you know, where you combine both player spaces to create a court that's double the size of singles, which opens up many different types of shots. So doubles it's a bit like pickleball. Doubles is and padel actually, which is the pickleball equivalent in Europe, so to speak. So, those sports have shown are double first. It's almost as if single player is seen as a training, as a warm up, at least to some of the people for whom it's their hobby, talk about it. In tennis, ping pong, it's the reverse. I would say mostly single players, but those new popular sports are mostly doubles focused. And funny thing is, in Racket Club, you immediately feel that the doubles is the king discipline, the core discipline. And so we want to introduce, which is a bit unusual, we want to introduce doubles competitions, doubles ranking, doubles ELOs. You know, it's not so easy because people can pair with many different people during the course of a session. So we're trying to figure it out. So that's for the short term. Then we want to structure group league. You know, there's something I feel personally playing tennis that is very important is in a queue, you can get your next match anytime you want, right? There is nothing telling you this match is absolutely more critical than that one. And that's when we plan to introduce some form of group league system where people join and have then, this is a bit like playoffs or ranking matches that you have at the start of a new season in league, you know, where those matches matter because they are few. And it's not like as if you can just ask for another one. It's this match now that you need to win to create that moment of adrenaline. Then there's many things on the drawing board, but one of them is, you know, once you have a social space like the club, what if you tried, I don't know, a small adaptation of badminton there, or you introduce a different play mode where you use the fact that it's not through menu that would complexify or maybe confuse new players very quickly, but it's quite easy to introduce a different way to have fun with the racket, So you say, all right, let's introduce some fun courts. You just walk over there, you drop the new court, and you see if people like it, and maybe it becomes a new A mode. And if not, you cycle through and introduce another B mode over there. That's something very much would like to do, and many different things like that.
Ooh. I'd love me some badminton.
Yeah,
I won't lie.
Well, you already have the engine. You already have the physics. The racket's good. So I mean, now it's just go crazy and have fun.
The birdie there.
Exactly.
So for yourself as a lifelong tennis player, somebody who still plays, sometimes we're our own worst critic, but myself, I'm loving Racket Club, but I'm not so much of a hardcore real life tennis. Yes, correct. So for somebody in real life, they do love tennis. How do you feel about the physics and the end result of it? Are you satisfied?
Me, I'm very happy. Very happy. And I'm very happy to see that, sorry for all the noobs out there, that I'm very happy to see that the people that are, like it happened, we were playing Friday night. And you have to imagine, this is the big influx of noobs week. And you have those old timers that have been in the beta, have developed some skills. I've been playing it for years. So we're like, I would say we're pretty humble and nice people, but we still feel good of being, at least for what it lasts, some of the best players in the club, right? And people come, oh, you can do backspins like that, and they roll back into the gap. And well, how do you do this shot? And it doesn't happen that often, at least for sure. In my real tennis, it never happens. So it feels good. And then some guy comes in and say, hey, can I play with you guys? And you click on him, you see he's barely enough league points, so he's a total noob coming out of the tutorial. And the guy is just, is this like the Tom Cruise movie? Are you scamming me? No, I never played this game before. And we got wrecked because the guy is a top tennis player and a lot of the motor skills directly translates. And that's not the only one. We also have a bunch of top 11 players, some of the top 10 of 11. So real hardcore 11 players. And they come in and they very quickly became the best of Racket Club because it's you have a commonality of skill sets that is obvious. So I take that as the best sign that the physics, even though they are not trying to mimic exactly any given sports physics, shrunk of commonality and the way we've achieved the subtleties in how you hit the ball makes it so that those experienced people, they don't have to work to learn something a bit unusual. It's very specific to the game. It's part of the common trunk of knowledge for top racket players.
I love
I
to hear
am
that.
Not surprised.
That's the ultimate test of how good the engine is and the physics is. Do real world players, are they able to come in and have a noticeable
over? Yeah. And apparently you can.
If the guy's coming in and beating the developers on his first day, imagine being that guy. It's like, hell yeah, I just really put it on the developers. My first ever time playing in multiplayer, but that's because it's a very well done engine. And I've seen people on our Discord. I see the reception for it is been huge so far, and it sounds like we're only just touching the surface. So I'm itching for more Racket Club time. I'm hooked on it. But something I've got to ask before we wrap it up. I see it on your notebook. I caught wind of it as well. We noticed that drum set, behind you. I'll take it you're a real life drummer. Could we ever see a drumming game coming to Resolution Games?
There's some good stuff out there already. It's difficult. Drumming is so difficult. I don't see how you could make it fun on the first session. That's a challenge. How do you make it easy to pick up? Hard to master. I think everybody who's ever seen a good drummer gets a good sense of why it's hard to master, but easy to pick up so you have fun on your first session. It's a good challenge. Actually, one of my best DS game, Nintendo DS, was there was a Japanese release of a band. You were playing a band instrument on your DS, and I always had a sweet spot for something that you start for something very basic. So you had just A-B buttons, and at the end of it, you realize, wait a minute, this thing is an instrument. I have 2.5 octaves, and I can play Mario's main song without looking at the screen because they've taught me just by doing those things how to go for the full mapping of each note and the flat using the right and left trigger, flat up, flat down, octave up. So that could be something. Maybe start easy and build up from there.
And how long have you been drumming? Are you a lifelong drummer? Something you picked up in adulthood?
No, I picked up when my son started playing drums. He's in a small band at school. I said, "Hey, can I try?" And so that's how I started. Very recently. I'm more a guitar player.
That's awesome.
That's cool. At least you can play together.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So no, great stuff for Racket Club. I love to hear the lessons learned from Blaston, as well as, hey, Racket Club's not a finished product in your eyes. In my eyes, as a consumer, the game's good.
It's damn good.
If nothing else came out for it, it would be a phenomenal game. But that's not really how Resolution Games seems to do things.
No,
you all are great at listening to player feedback. I haven't seen any bug fixes, but bug fixes in general, or new content updates. Resolution Games crushes it in that regard. So I'm hyped for the current state of Racket Club. Get in, play some more rounds. Hopefully beat some noobs on the court. Hopefully they're not real life tennis players.
The window's going to get progressively smaller and smaller.
Yeah, it's a game that's definitely easy to learn, but hard to master. There's a high skill threshold.
There's skill.
So, get in on it now, but I don't know. I'm excited for what's to come for Racket Club. I definitely want to get in some rounds tonight. Maybe get my redemption against you as well. That's cool to know that the developers are in there, on the court playing with, newbies or more experienced people and getting that direct feedback as well. That's great to hear. But for people that enjoy Racket Club, where can they tune in for the latest and greatest with Racket Club news? Should that be social media, a Racket Club Discord?
The Discord is pretty active, but we have a news board on the home room, and we are updating it very frequently to share things with the user, because I think it's very efficient way of you just come in and before you start your session, you have the news board there. It's easy to update. I've used it before. Like some people, we had a single player carrier small bug that appeared on the first day. I don't know if you read that news in the home room, and then the next day we could patch it immediately and we could inform the players there. That was very fluid way. So both the Discord and just in game.
I love that bulletin board feature.
It's not as common as I wish it was, especially for updates, because there's a lot of things that update, but you don't always read what they were. But when you sign into something and it's there in front of you, you're like, oh shit, okay, look at, they added that.
Yeah.
Even adds to the excitement a little.
Underrated feature, and I love to see that's in there. So
old school message board.
Yeah. No, it works. It's agreed. I
just love that they can be updated in real time though, and just put out there, and that's pretty cool.
So before we let Matt go, is there anything else you wanted to ask about Racket Club, Resolution Games, the drum kit, anything else?
No, we love Resolution Games as a studio. I love that everything they put out is like, if you had gave me money and said, take a guess what their next release will be, it would have never been crossed my mind that Racket Club would be. So I love that as a studio, they keep me guessing on the consumer end. I don't know what they're going to come out with next. And I couldn't guess because they're so different from each other. But no, I think you crushed it with Racket Club.
Could be Rock Band next for all we know.
I don't even know.
Now you know.
You blew it with the damn drum set.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just, I got nothing bad to say. Our in community hype on Discord, people who are trying it are loving it. I'm already envisioning the amount of tournaments that are going to take place, and
I could hear one of our Discord members, King Canuck. He was like, "Oh no, this is going to be a problem. I'm hooked." He's like, "I'm hooked."
Well, and it's not long to play. It's like you don't need an hour of your time to jump in and play.
The worst thing that can happen to me is lose in the finals of a tournament, because now I have to do another. I always do. So
yeah, you don't want to end the night.
Well, do it fast before the bots get too
good. Yeah, no, but absolutely, it has that one more game feel. You're like, I'll do one more. I'll do one more.
So I love.
Yeah, so many people just play until battery dies in the club. When you're in the club, and I'm there often just to scratch my racket itch, as a consumer myself. people just go until the last electron on court.
I could totally see it. Again, it's addicting. So I encourage everyone, go check out Racket Club. Stay tuned for more updates with it. If you love it, drop it a 5-star on the store. Definitely deserves it. And Mathieu, great work to yourself, the whole team, Resolution Games. You all
continuing to crush it in the VR world.
New innovative ideas. It's not more of the same. It's just another thing from left field. Like you said, who knows what comes next? So you all deserve a round of applause on this one. End of the year release. That's just so much fun.
That was perfect.
So thank you again, Mathieu.
So
and for the listeners, again, subscribe, rate us 5 stars, drop them a 5-star, and hopefully we see you on the court. Ciao, ciao.
Take care.